two CIA officers who said that this is a part of a larger hoax, and what they're doing here is they're trying to condition the country to prepare for something bad that's about to happen at the hands of Donald Trump. It's straight out of the CIA playbook. It's a destabilization operation where you get people to mistrust each other. And you do this because she's an analyst. And as an analyst, she would make sure what propaganda operations were successful, which ones weren't. So she knows what works. So the first part of the video, you establish authority. I'm CIA, I'm military, you need to trust us. Second part of the video, they introduce the threat. And the threat's not foreign, the threat's domestic, the threat's Donald Trump. And then at the end, they introduce the solution. What's the solution? You resist, you say no. But they don't give an option. They say this is an obligation for you to do. Now, she is being run because she didn't come up with this herself. She's a Brennan acolyte, and you usually don't have congressmen and senators doing anything together. They kind of hate each other. So in order to organize this had to have had some sort of handler telling her what to do. And it was risky because nothing like this has ever been done in the history of the country. And you can even tell because the media was skeptical. And they couldn't answer the question, so they hadn't even been read in on the operation. You see them fumbling and stumbling. And I'm glad that the U.S. military is now investigating this guy, Kelly, because this is what we expect from Donald Trump 2.0. You can't have the deep state interfering with a duly elected presidency and get away with it. You got to draw the line in the sand, and you have to make examples out of people.
Can't identify illegal orders because there are no illegal orders. But they were suggesting, again, to the 1.3 million active duty service members in the military today that if you think an order is illegal, you don't have to follow it. Actually, that's against the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It explicitly states, and I want to read this language precisely, that service members have a legal obligation under the U.S. UCMJ to obey lawful orders, and that orders are presumed to be lawful. You can't have a soldier out on the battlefield or conducting a classified order, questioning whether that order is lawful or whether they should follow through. There must be a chain of command in our military, and Republicans and Democrats for decades, since the beginning of our country, have always respected that until now when the Democrat Party has been completely overtaken by Trump derangement syndrome, and now we have these deranged statements from sitting members of Congress.
Of what you had in that video you released, because there are also 15 House Republicans who are also veterans who released a video, including a retired 3-star Marine Corps General, Jack Bergman. Take a listen to this.
Troops, listen up. Any service member who refuses a lawful order is subject to court-martial for violating the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
We study what's lawful and what's not lawful, and the Democrats stunt insinuating that they're illegal or unconstitutional orders. It's downright dangerous.
It's corrosive. It is meant to weaken our country and weaken the military.
How do you respond to these allegations from your colleagues, fellow veterans, that what you have put out there is weakening and corrosive to the military?
Well, these unfortunately are some of Trump's core supporters that are rallying behind the president, and they know better. They know exactly the difference between lawful versus unlawful. We were very clear in the video that what we're talking about is unlawful orders. You have the president's spokesperson going into a press conference this past week and saying that we called for people to disobey lawful orders. They're simply lying because the truth is unacceptable to them. It's unacceptable. We wanted to start a conversation, and we did, about the dangerous rhetoric this president is using and the threats that he's made to use our military in an unlawful way.
Specifically what?
Well, send troops into Chicago, send troops into polling stations, kill terrorists' families, arrest and execute members of Congress.
And it's all meant to undermine the president of the United States. The military does not have a right to undermine the chief.
Hold on a second. In this country, you do get to undermine the president of the United States.
Not if you're in the military.
No.
He's the commander-in-chief.
If you are a member of Congress, you absolutely, in this country, have a free right to undermine the president of the United States. You know that, right?
The commander-in-chief.
Phillips, man, goodness gracious. You can tell this is an individual that has never taken that oath. They've never, stood up, raised their hand and promised that they're going to defend the Constitution and listen to every order that comes from the commander in chief and follow those orders. She's never actually had to stand up and say that. AT, I'll give you the first word on this. What are your thoughts, bro?
I thought this was a joke when I first saw this. I'll be completely honest with you. I think Crystal's the one that sent it to me or somebody. But I honestly thought this was a joke. Like, there's no way. Captain of the United States Navy, '06 type. There's no way that he actually came up there and said that. I do solemnly swear to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Those words mean something. And I listened to this because this tickled me. It truthfully did, that we've gotten to this point in society. First of all, I'm going to talk about the captain. I don't want to talk about the rest of them. They never served. Most liberals don't serve. Only 1 out of 5 of the United States military even identifies as liberal. So you don't understand that life, and that you have a really strong opinion about it, but let's go ahead and get into it. So as far as refusing illegal orders goes, when you look at that, I think, was it Carolyn Levitt? I think I said her name correctly. Whoever the press secretary is, she hit the nail on the head with that. Understand that legal guidance will show you that you have to presume most orders are lawful, right? Then you can be punished for following an order that, this is the key, that you knew without a reasonable doubt were unlawful. And so my question to a lot of Democrats are, that word illegal, I think you use it and you don't really know what it means. Understand illegal means that you can prove in a court of law using government systems that this goes against doctrine that has been put out, provided for by a judge, signed off on for the United States of America or the area that you're operating with. It does not mean that you don't like what someone is doing. It doesn't mean that it hurts your feelings and suddenly you want to tag this word illegal up there. I've noticed a lot of liberals, especially when it comes to the military, love their buzzwords: illegal, hateful, all these things. But when it comes down to a court of law, you're going to start getting people in trouble, because what if some dumb little private listens to that? What if some brand new into the military, you're 18 years old, you're out on your own, you're told that people in the government are above you, you have to memorize your chain of command, included a couple civilians, and you have this '06 Navy captain saying you have a right to not listen to these orders that are out there, right? Don't listen to an illegal order. You notice they didn't actually name it, right? You notice they didn't say this thing he did was illegal by this regulation. This thing that he said that he was going to do is illegal. This order that he gave out to go into Chicago, according to UCMJ Article X, Y, and Z, by this line item, it is illegal. You shouldn't do it. They didn't do that because they know it's not actually illegal. They just disagree with the law, but it's not actually illegal. Someone's going to listen to that. If Trump had done this, let's just flip the script in 2000, let's call it 2022, whenever the pull out of Afghanistan happened. If Trump had done that and a bunch of Republicans came out and said, hey, you don't have to listen to this, right? You don't have to pay attention. You have an obligation to push back against orders that are unlawful. Again, what would have happened if the script was flipped? But in this case, one of my favorite words, it starts with a T. All enemies, foreign and domestic. You just got done telling service members not to follow orders, knowing that those orders are lawful. That makes you an enemy of the United States. That makes you a treasonous person. That's what that is. We got to bring that word back. We truthfully do. We can't, for those who don't know, and Wise can probably talk more about this, though, one older gentleman who said he's a captain. It's a captain of a ship. That's an '06. It's the last officer position you can be before being a general or an admiral. Buddy has power. Buddy knows individuals, and he is abusing that in front of your eyes. Please do not give me an opinion on this if you are someone who's liberal who says, yes, this is great, and you've never worn it before. If you don't know anybody who's worn it, you didn't come up a military family, you're not a military brat, you're not a military spouse, you certainly did not serve, you don't know what you're talking about, and this is a very dangerous and slippery slope conversation that these morons came up here and put out.
Yeah, Celeste, I'll give you the next word.
I think that this was very clever. This was something cleverly done, because what they tried to do is they tried to confuse civil law with military law. Now, military law is different than civil law. First of all, the fact that it is in order means it's legal. So the idea of an illegal order is already an oxymoron. The fact that it is in order means it's legal. The second thing they never mentioned is who would determine that. I guess they left it up to the individual military person to, on their own, decide, do I think this, with all of my legal expertise, do I think this law is legal? Everybody knows that doesn't work, because you can't run an efficient military, which is why they have a separate law, because you could never run an efficient fighting force if everybody got to take time before they could actually execute an order, to have to determine, well, wait a second, who issued it and under what regulation does it fall? And can you go ahead and look this? You can't fight the enemy like that. So the fact is, because it is an order, it is legal. But I believe the cleverness of this has nothing to do with the military. Like AT said, only 1 in 5 in the military is liberal and would fall for this foolishness anyway. This is messaging to the civil and secular, non-military public. What they want is to say, you don't have to follow Donald Trump's laws because it can be an illegal law. Now, first of all, that's not even provided for in secular law. If that were the case, we wouldn't have been jailing Martin Luther King every Monday, Wednesday, and Sunday. Okay? You cannot not follow a law in this country. What you can't do is you can protest, you have redress of grievance, you can go to court, you can sue, and you can get a law changed if you believe it's illegal. But there is no place where you can plant your feet in the place called the United States where you are allowed to not follow a codified law in the military or otherwise. So they are encouraging people into lawlessness. And I really believe that the audience for this very clever clandestine message was not military members. It is to the general public. They want uprising. And they want people to think that if the president issues something or if something happens, you now can decide, independent of a judge, independent of the judicial system, just you on your own, as Joe Schmo, have all of the expertise you need to go, nope, I'm not following that.
Grasso, I want to get you in on this. I want to make this crystal clear, man. Seriously. A military that stops following lawful orders is not just a disagreement. That is a step toward national collapse.
That's the end. Yeah, that's the end.
That's the end right there. I don't think people really understand this. And those that have not served in the military or haven't actually worn a uniform, I don't really think they understand, how this entire situation works. But our entire system only works because the armed forces operate under discipline and loyalty to the Constitution, not to emotions, not to politics, not to whoever's trending on social media. That's not how this works. Right. And once the chain of command breaks, you get mutiny, you get criminal charges, you get chaos, and basically a full-blown constitutional crisis, which I think that's what they're calling for. I think that's what they're asking for here. I mean, it's ridiculous. And the people that are on the side of these people that says that, hey, this is okay, like an Abby Phillips that says, yeah, they're in Congress, they have the right to do this. It's just like these people are showing themselves as true enemies to the state based off of their rhetoric. It's crazy. What are your thoughts, Marcella?
You see that was subterfuge because she said, when he said, the military doesn't have the right to undermine the president. And she said, no, absolutely they do. Congress has the right to she totally switched.
She dodged it.
The sentence so that the sentence could be correct. These people, watch them. They are slick, slippery, slick.
You're absolutely right. And you got to pay attention to the language. You got to
listen. All word soup. It was on purpose. The reason why they said illegal orders is because they know that's already it's already precedence. And Article 92 is when you willfully disobey a legal order. If an officer gives you an order and you disobey it, that you get charged with an Article 92 under the UCMJ, and lawful actions happen from there. But you are also commanded to disobey an illegal order that's already been established, but you better have clear and concise proof that it is illegal before you decide to disobey it. But they know that, but they know the average person doesn't know that. So they're going to use that language, just like Celeste said, to rile up a base, make Donald Trump and to make his administration less human. And that's the whole point of the rhetoric. That's the propaganda machine in a nutshell, is try to make the sitting government less than human, because then people are going to act on their own self-interest. They're going to try to save the world. They're going to try to be the hero. Yeah. So I agree 100% with Celeste. It had nothing to do with the military itself, because they knew the laws. It was all about the general public, the low-informed voter that will get riled up emotionally over statements.
Yeah, unfortunately. I saw something the other day, and they mentioned that the reason why these people use the term, fascist or Hitler is not because they actually believe it, but they use it as a way or an excuse to either cause harm or to spew reckless and dangerous rhetoric at another side. It's not that they believe it, but they use it so that they can do whatever ill will they would like to do to those on the other side.
But Wise, most people don't know what those words mean, right? They just know that it's bad, right? And so if I get the emotion from you, the emotional response I'm looking for, knowing you're never going to look it up because you trust me implicitly because I'm all that you listen to, then I can get you to follow along with almost anything that I say because I've basically told you that person is the enemy. And so you are now morally obligated and have a sense of righteous justice when you attack that person I told you attack because they're that bad word. But most people can't even describe what a fascist is.
Yeah. And then you said the information funnel given to us by our AIs are just constantly feeding you that same stuff over and over and over again. They never even hear the other side.
Well, yeah, not going to wake up by the system waking you up. You're going to have to go outside of what it's showing you, and most people have no desire or intention to do that.
They don't want to be uncomfortable. They like the comfort.
Yeah. The thing too, when you start thinking about fascism, and I think AT, you're absolutely right. No different than I think we talked about this prior to the election. Up in New York, how many people were looking up the word socialism after the fact? They voted. It was like, yeah, this sounds good, and then they spent pretty much Wednesday and Thursday trying to figure out what exactly is socialism again.
Wait a minute. Right? I gotta say this one thing to that, Wise. Look, I know this might ruffle some feathers, and I don't mean it to insult, but it's just the reality. Liberals need to stop playing in grounds they don't understand, or they have to educate themselves. The bottom line is that most liberals do not serve, most liberals do not provide food for this country, most liberals do not provide the transportation for the supplies that go into this country, and most liberals do not live in a place where they build the homes. You're not responsible for those things. This is not your arena. You have an opportunity to educate yourself on that, so that when you do step into someone's arena and you go up to someone like Wise and say something like, oh, you can disobey orders in the military, this is wrong, you don't look like a moron. You're actually educated, but you have to be willing to be objective. You have to put your bias at the door, but that means to Marcel's point beneath me, it means that you have to be willing to admit that you're wrong about something and you're ignorant about something, and that right there is what most people are unwilling to do.
Yeah, you got to be willing to be challenged, man.
That's right.
Your ideas have to be. You have to be willing to take the L's where you screwed up.
You're absolutely right, and I think we also, I think we all see this, but everything that those people on that side of things, those on the left, everything that they say the current administration are actually the things that they are doing. When you think about fascism, and AT, you're absolutely right, most people probably don't have a real idea of what it means. But when you start going down just a couple bullet points of what it means to be a fascist, the breakdown of the chain of command. We just watched 6 senators come out and say, we need to break down the chain of command because these orders that are being given by the commander in chief are quote unquote unlawful. That's a sign of fascism. When national security becomes vulnerable, we just watched 4 years of the previous administration open our borders like we've never seen it before.
That's right.
So when you start going down the list of fascism, it's pretty crazy because we're literally watching one party actually operate in that manner while they're calling the other side what they're doing. It's crazy. It's really crazy. Crystal, I'll give you the last word on this and then we'll keep it moving.
All I want to say is, I take things deeper. And I think people need to go back to what AT and I spoke about. I think it was last year. AT and I spoke about the Pact for the Future. And I've mentioned here the whole idea about own nothing and be happy. And the way they're going to do this is through this psyop that they're doing. This is psychological warfare. I need people to understand that. When an ex-CIA agent is involved, it's psychological warfare. And so we understand, United States, united we stand. When we stand together, we are unstoppable. Divided, we will fall. So when you say something like that, you're basically telling people, you now make up your own definition of what you feel. It's not what is, but what you feel is illegal. If you don't feel like you agree with this, what you're being asked to do, then regardless of what the laws say, how do you feel about this? So you're trying to even individualize the people within the military. If I'm not mistaken, just listening to Wise, the conversations I've had with Wise, conversations I've had with AT, this is it's one mind, one body, like the movie Drumline. Everybody's one band, one sound. Everybody's moving the same way because y'all have a goal that you're achieving, the freedom of the United States of America, freedom, right? But when you start putting these little, again, they're planting little seeds into the military so that people could start saying, as you said, they use the word fascist, Nazi, Hitler, all these different things, and then say things like, you don't need to follow what they're saying. You need to stand up and say that you don't want to listen. This is just going to break down the military and make America weak enough so the people who are trying to make the pact for the future something global, that they will have the ability to do that, because now the military is not standing together. Our system is broken across the board. They're already trying to break us as citizens in the United States, have us so divided. Now let's take it a step further. Let's go through the military and divide them as well. When we have everybody divided, we'll be so weak. The people that are the puppets, they will be able to do what they need to do because we'll be so broken and weak. So I want people to understand this is psychological warfare, and you need to pay attention to these things and watch the people that are pushing it, because they're literally the puppets in this. They are the puppets that are being controlled by the puppeteers that are in charge of all of this. That's who those people are. Pay attention to those things.
Well, do you mind if I add on to what Crystal just said? Because I know we hear this a lot, and a lot of people on the left will always push back. Like you say, it's a psyop. That's just a buzzword for people on the right? You're just trying to put fear and panic into people's minds. So I'm going to read this from the Joint publication 3-53, Doctrine for Joint Psychological Operations, from the National Security Archive. This is what they teach people off of for this. And it says here very clearly, the purpose of psyops is to induce or reinforce foreign attitudes or behavior favorable to the originator's objectives, usually only showing one side of a situation. And what I see very clearly, plain as day, is one side is showing whatever they want to. Doesn't matter, whatever they want, and then the other side is being silenced every chance they can get. But we see the media showing one side, we see the media silencing one side, and you get this constant drip, to Marcelo's point, of one side of the argument, one side of the conversation. And my challenge I have to everyone, if you believe so firmly in whatever it is, pick one ideology on the left, you should be comfortable defending him. You can challenge me about my faith all day long because I'm comfortable defending it. I have no problem with that. But it's the anger that comes whenever you push back and say, no, I think that you're wrong. I think that some of your officials on your side are doing this for purely malicious reasons or for selfish reasons. Can we have that conversation? Nope, I'll get called every single name in the dictionary, something I'd never heard of before, but we will never have that chat. That's a definition of a psychological operation.
I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know. The comment section should be full here. I want to hear from you guys. Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to go the extra mile and support the channel financially, join the ARP family or buy your brother a coffee. That link's in the description box below. I appreciate you guys. A lot of love for you guys, man. And as always, keep God first, stay prayed up. We'll catch up with y'all next time. Peace.
We won't stop. I won't quit. Stand for the truth. No counterfeit. Real ones rise. Let the fake ones split. Repent for the lies. Let the darkness